Hello, welcome to another video. This is Kevin, also known as AKAAWOL, and today we're going to try to do something about that. I have a bunch of these magnetic bits that I jot down the ideas of stuff that I'm going to produce. And to better do it, I now have this wonderful collection of whiteboard markers. So if it's something like the rainbow bag, this is what basically ends up over on the magnetic thing over to the side, and this is how I go about part of my whole process here. So to try to help make things organized, I have this little old metal tin. It's got a little bit of history around the house here. Mom used to use it to scoop the rice back before she had her stroke, and she would be able to, pretty much use this to measure how much to cook for the family. So rather than just tossing it, I'm going to repurpose it into something that I'll keep around, and it just happens to work out that all this stuff relatively fits in here, and yeah, that's pretty awesome. So what will I need for this? Well, the primary thing I need is string, and that's what I've decided to go with. This is the string that's left over. It was going to be a bag. Back when I purchased it, the thought was I was going to make a bag out of it, and then I got that wild, crazy idea that I would make a mask instead. And so because it was nowhere near as much, I now have this left over, and I think this will make a really fun thing. This is something I want to have sitting up on my desk, so it might as well be colors that I really like. So that's the plan. Next I'm going to cut up the string, which is going to be very time consuming. So I'll come back and see you guys once I've done that. Okay, so now comes the time of trying to put the strings together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these little scraps of leather, and I've got my string here. This is the halfway point. So what I'm going to do is put that there. Clamp that down. And I'm going to clamp that down. Okay, so what I did there was I added the leather so that way there's just a little gap underneath this. Can't really see it, but it's going to make it easier for me to slide the strings underneath it. So I guess I can begin with that now. Essentially, I have off to the side here cut all my string, and I'm going to try to very evenly find the center of them and get them joined onto this, just like that. And this is going to be a bit of a tedious process. I have a count already made up of how many strings will be needed. It's on a piece of paper around here. I don't know where it is, but I suspect it's only going to be an estimate. And I say that because this string here, I perceive it to be just a little bit smaller than the rest of the string. So this is the stuff out of China, and this is one of the things that can happen, I guess. It's just a possibility that maybe the string just isn't quite up to the standards of, say, something like a DMC or something. And trying to get the strings down without getting them tangled seems to be a bit of an issue here. So just kind of give you a rundown of what I'm doing, and then I'll do a bunch of this stuff either off camera or with a time lapse perhaps, because I see this taking the better part of the afternoon today. So we didn't really discuss the pattern much. I have an idea of what I want to do, and I'll kind of go into that a little bit later on. But I can tell you there is 5 colors of red and then the turquoise. So 6 colors in all, but the turquoise is going to be used a lot. At least that's the plan. So kind of a little bit along the same lines as what I did with this thing, right? My whole high score thing. So kind of part that, part the card holder. Just basically been inspired by a lot of my own work here lately, and kind of the thought is combining a bunch of the different things. I guess, well, maybe less the card holder, maybe more of that blue and red bag. That was pretty cool. And I did that whole like random thing with it, but this is going to be a little bit closer to if I hadn't done the random thing with it. So if you are new to my channel, I would encourage you to check out a lot of my other videos for beginners and stuff like that. If you're a very experienced person, I would suggest that you could check out all of the stuff on making bags. There's quite a lot of material to be viewed there. The cutting up the string for this took me a little bit longer than I would have liked, and I have a rationality to that. So when I first get the bag of string in the mail, that all needs to be kind of sorted through and gets put into piles, and that all got shifted off to a bag. After that, it got pulled out and got shifted through and sorted through till I got enough colors and made something else. Everything that was left went back into a bag. And then from there, it got pulled back out and sorted through yet again till become this. Now, there is nothing wrong with any of that, except I find that the more times you pull it in and out of bags and boxes and whatever, without actually doing something to it, the more chances you have of getting the little loops or whatever caught over top of each other. Basically give it the chance to become tangled. And that's kind of why when I first get the string in, while it's all nice and hardly ever been touched, I like to get it onto the little bobbins, because if it may take me a lot of time to take all the string and wind it onto those bobbins, but it'll save me time in the long run as I'm like fishing through all my string, trying to find just the right colors to make just that right project. I don't have to worry about it being so tangled up that I have to then unknot it just to be able to use it, because that is a super, super big time kill. So, yeah, that's my take on it. You may think otherwise. I see some people who have like a shoebox full of string, and they're just digging through there to make a rainbow or whatever. And I just can't imagine how much more difficult that is for them to turn around and be able to have the string that, that they want. By the time they get to like the bottom of that shoebox, those things have just got to be a nightmare to get untangled. So, I mean, it's up to you. I mean, do it your way. But it is my experience that if you don't want to spend all your time doing that, the way around it is to just go in and put it onto bobbins right out the gate. Like I said, that's a depending on how many strings you're getting. Yeah, that can be a day, a week, whatever. But whatever time you spend on that will be that much time saved later on down the road when you're trying to pick out colors and decide, ooh, this is going to be a thing. Yep, you can get right to work on it without whatever. So what you're not seeing, like in between the stuff, is my hands going down and trying to get the string and divide it in half and get it ready. Yeah, I suspect watching this has got to be a little bit like watching paint dry, so let's have to speed this up or something. Okay, so I'm about to speed this up. I got kind of quiet there at this point, so yeah, figured I'd just kind of talk over it. Adding this string was time consuming, but it's a necessary part of the whole process. And I do fear that sometimes when I just speed these whole things up, you guys might get the impression that it's not real time consuming. This stuff is, and there's no way around it, and it doesn't matter that I have lots of experience or that I have a nice setup like an easel or whatever. It is time consuming. So if you're new to this and you're concerned that perhaps, these people who are so capable of big projects or whatever is beyond you, just understand it takes us a long time as well. So, and so you can kind of see, right? The whole point of that leather was to have it propped up to put the strings under faster, and it does work. It is really super efficient. Also, you just saw the calipers there, just to help make certain that the length was going to turn out as I wanted. I would periodically just kind of measure it and see where I was. I did that section because you can see now I have it clipped. You could kind of see it kind of sagging in the middle from the weight, and I kind of wanted to avoid that. So doing a small segment in knots allowed me to put on one of my bigger clips to be able to help hold it and try to help keep things nice and straight and even. So that's kind of the nature of that. And so there was a few instances where I got some work done and then went back to adding string. And my math was right on, except I missed one. I don't know how I did it, but later on you'll probably get to see it. There is a light pinkish color missing in one of them. And I hadn't even noticed that until much further in. It was way too late to actually fix it. So it makes it really, really tight around the can. And it's unfortunate, but again, even somebody with a lot of experience can still make a mistake. And I say that because there's a couple of you that have made comments like, you just can't do it. You're just not. It is. You can. It just takes time. It takes practice. So now at this point, you can see I've gotten where the red is coming to an end, right? It stops at a nice even line, and I keep that even line all the way across this whole thing. So just like I kept the turquoise at an even row at the top. The red has an even row there. Now, as I'm doing this, I am looking at something I drew up on some graph paper that's up on my computer screen in front of me. I'm not including that on the website or anything because I really feel like this is a relatively easy thing. Like I just did, it's like the play button, play, pause, and fast forward. At putting that onto the graph paper, mind you, I used the same graph paper you can get off my website, right? So just kind of drawing it in there, that was relatively simple. And it just gave me an idea of like sizing and spaces and stuff. But because I want you, I'm not including it because I want you guys to like come up with your own things. Sure, you could go ahead and turn around and make one of these things based on just what you've seen. But, oh, see, there's the pink rose that's missing, right? That's right there, right by the rewinds thing. Anyways, I want you guys to be able to make your own. I want you to come up with your own designs. I want to encourage that. And I want to, I'll help you. If you have, want to like leave comments and say, how do I do this or whatever, I'll do my best to answer the questions. But I think it'll be more meaningful to you if you come up with something that is of your own design. Okay, so I got to the end of where the pinks are. There's no way I could go any further without having joined them. So I went ahead and I started on the turquoise that is on the base. They're just slightly longer than the ones on the top, which sort of gives it this illusion of it being taller on my desk than it really is. Which I thought would be kind of a cool look. Kind of like how Disney made their castle look really, really tall, right? So yeah, kind of wanted to play with that kind of a thing, see how that would turn out. Although I'm not sure it works that great, but whatever. Here I joined it. Like I said, I was missing a string, so I had to really pull that taut, and I used the two little clips to help hold that in place. And you can see the knots are kind of at a bit of a strain, but it's still, that's the thing about if you're good with tension, you can kind of compensate. You can sort of pull here and shift a little there and get the work to align to how you want it to. Instead of it having control over you, you have to take control over the string. And that's how that came about. I have to thank my wife for helping me put together this AKAAWOL part of the design. I was busy with actual knots while she got to playing with the graph paper, and so she was the one that actually put this together. So big thanks for that. Saved me a whole bunch of time. The way that I have this anchored is there's a clip on the back actually holding it to the board as it sits on the easel. And then the two smaller clips are helping to keep things from kind of shifting around. Because of the way you kind of pull at the strings, it wants to slide down the can. And if you let the front slide down, that kind of warped nature would cause the whole work to be pretty messed up. So that's something that you really would want to avoid. This is how I did it. So at this point you can see it's going way, way faster. This is a relatively easy project. I mean, even if you just did candy stripes around a can, you could do this. So I definitely encourage taking the time, try it. Okay, so here's the dilemma. I have basically got the whole thing down here, and what I did was I flipped it over, and take the magnet off now. I pushed it down this way, so that way I covered up the lip. So you can see this is really right up to the very top now. And I'm really pleased with that. But now I'm wondering if that's too much of a gap there. I could do a whole nother set of knots going around it, because here's what's going to happen. I'm going to cut all this here and I'm going to glue it around the base. And I'm thinking that maybe I just need to do a whole nother row, which is, you know, you have to go all the way around, and just what a pain. But I guess if it means that by doing that extra row, you see less of the fades from the red, I suppose that's not so bad. I mean, I feel like I'm just being lazy, and that, you know, it's for the betterment of the project. It'll make it awesome. I guess that all right. I'm committed now. I'm gonna do it. So put it back up here and just basically go around again. This is a little bit of what happens. Now, mind you, it's at this point right here. This is exactly where when I was doing the measurements and stuff, this is exactly the number of knots it said it was going to be. Now, I stopped 2 rows beforehand because I didn't want to do it too long, because I knew that it wouldn't sit properly. So I kind of did a little bit short, because it's always easier to add more. And now here I'm at that point where, okay, so you have to add more. And it's like, oh, but do I really have to? And yeah, I mean, and this is part of what, creating things and not having a pattern because you're doing something that's never been done before. This is what you come across. And you have to be flexible, and you have to be forgiving to yourself and whatever. And yes, it would have been a whole lot more fun to say, yep, done. And now I can't say that I'm done quite yet, because I have to do this. But this is not very time consuming. There's something like, it was like 130 strings. So there's only, 65 knots going around? So that's not terrible. It's just the whole, I thought I was done, and I thought I was ready, and I'm not. Oh, and the magnet, that magnet really wasn't a thing. It was, I just discovered that the magnet stuck to the tin, and was playing around with it, and I suppose I just left it there. I didn't really think much of it. So, but seeing as how I'm going to be gluing the strings to the base, and that's the other thing, I have no idea how short to cut these strings, because basically I want it to sit flat, and I want the strings to cover that little lip. And that way, if you can imagine, like, things that you've seen with a felt base, essentially these strings will serve as the same purpose. The reason they put felt on it is so you don't scratch up your desk or whatever. So similarly, having the strings wrap underneath means I won't scratch up my surface, and that's important to me. So that is my plan. And I'm just going to use the regular plain old white glue, the stuff you give kids in school, because it doesn't have to be fancy. I don't need some crazy weird bonding agent or something. I don't know. I just kind of feel like that stuff that you gave kids, it didn't matter if the kid ate it or whatever, the special child in the corner eating glue, kind of a cliche, right? So if it's safe enough for that, it's probably not like bad for the environment or whatever. So I somehow feel like that's a better thing than some of my other potential options. I don't know. That said, I wouldn't mind, like, I would really love to, like, those people who do like the cool epoxy stuff, like to do an epoxy over top of the fabric. I think that would be really neat. I think that would be a lot of fun. Again, I get torn between what would be awesome and what is bad for the environment. It's I try not to use any plastics. I try not to use acrylics and things that'll be harmful. So it's just a kind of a guideline. If given the choice, just pick the healthier choice, right? So, and you know, here I am. I'm recycling this can. It's been around for a long time though. I have no idea like how old this is. I'm not even sure. Like, do regular cans have magnets that can stick to it? I don't know. This very well may be a tin can. So, I don't think they do that anymore. So, all right, I'm going to finish this row, and then we're going to figure out the glue thing. So, back in a minute. All right, so that extra row is done. And I gotta say, at this point, I am nervous. I know what's coming next. I figure, I'm just gonna put this over and glue it, right? The wife says cut it maybe 2 cm. So that's like cutting it out here. I guess I agree with that. And it's just a case of if this is wrong, I would have to redo the whole thing all over again, and I don't have this color of strings, and I'm not even sure I have enough of any given one color to do it. So, all right, here we go. This is, it's so painful. Oh my gosh. All right. Kind of committed at this point. So, all right. Just... yeah. Now, mind you, I kind of knew going into this that the cutting at quarter length was going to be kind of long, and there's a lot of waste here. Obviously, there'd be a lot more waste if I had had it third length, but I didn't want to have it too short, and I didn't know if I cut it into sixths, basically cutting it into thirds and then cutting that in half, what that might be like. But all right, I think that's going to be fine. See, my big concern is I didn't want it to be like the wife was saying, well, what if you just tied it straight across? But then you would end up, after the first one, the next one gets a little higher, and then when you set this down, it would rock all over. You know what? That looks actually really cool. Like my first real glimpse of what it would look like sitting on my desk, and I'm absolutely loving that. So, okay. Glue. See, and I just know that this is just going to get stupid and messy. And all right, so it's just that basic white glue. Always gets the little tip gets gummed up there, which I suppose is pretty cool, because I guess if you gum up the tip, that means you're not getting air into the rest of it and turning it into one big block. Although I swear to God, every time I try to use this, like squeeze like hell. There it goes. All that effort just to get a teeny little bit. But all in the name of science? I don't know, art? Something. There's something semi-mesmerizing about this. All right. So, here we go. Big thing is I don't want it all over my fingers, because then I'll end up with it all over the rest of the project or all over my desk. Okay. Not so bad. A little bit on my fingers, but so far not bad. So this is... I've never done this before. right? So as a result, if this turns out, you guys get the bonus of being like, oh, I know exactly how to do this. I saw that guy. If it doesn't work out and I have to find something else, well, you'll still benefit from that too, because you'll be like, you know, I'll end up sharing that as well. So you guys would get to win. Me, I'm kind of worried and wondering how this is. Actually, it looks like it might actually work out really cool. What I don't know is, like, I know that if you like doing wood or whatever, you clamp it down. I'm not sure I have a means to clamp that. And if I did, what would I even use? And if I was going to, I think I should have thought of that long before I got to this point. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let that dry like that. And we'll see how that goes. We'll take a look at it, and I have no idea how long this stuff takes to dry. But all right, give it a little bit of time and we'll check back on it. Okay, there we have it. The glue held up really well. That's perfect. It can slide around on my desk just fine. Holds all my pens. I love it. I think it's awesome. I think the little play button and stuff gives it, playfulness. I got the AKAAWOL just because that's kind of cute. So basically, I was taking the idea from here, which, like I said, the original idea was that this would be solid and this would be solid. So I took that idea and realized that in this, I could have written things. I forgot to add that as a detail to the tutorial, but I could have written something in here. And then I realized that if I took the distance and basically divided it in half like I did here, and then divide half of that and kind of split it into two parts, that's essentially what we have here. So that's how that kind of came about. And I was kind of taking part of the idea from this, except for instead of where this time I did the different colors going through the letters, this time I kept the letters solid. So it gives you a different alternative for it if you're thinking about trying to do something like this. And having my pens at the ready is awesome, because now if I come up with an idea, I just get these little magnetic whiteboard things. And let's see, what is next? Oh. There we go. So I probably should have done that in purple, but I then can stick this over on the board, something for my next project, and I'm ready to go. So there you have it. I think it came out awesome. I really, really like this one. So hopefully I've inspired you guys. You guys can come up with stuff. I have no idea. I mean, maybe you guys don't need pen holders. Maybe you've got something else that you can, wrap this around. But the idea, should work with pretty much anything. So, all right. Until next time, don't get your strings in a bunch.